We're learning the Maimer Lekutai Torah of Parshas Bechukotai, first Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon was just starting the Maimer of Bechukotai, first Maimer. So the Maimer says like this: Bechukotai telechu, based on the pasuk in the opening pasuk of the last week's parsha. In the Omer Azal, we learned in the Gemara Vayikra Zara, Ein im elosha tachnunim. And every time it says im in Torah, it's an expression of, so to say, God is pleading. As if to say, please go in the ways of my chukim, of my mitzvahs, or of learning Torah. Shenemar, like it says, Lu ami shemei li Yisrael b'drachi alechu. So he says, sorry, I'm going to put you on mute. He says, Lu ami, if just my people would listen to me, and the Jewish people, the Yisrael, would go in my ways. Like that's the idea of im. So he says, what's the idea of that? God is asking the Jewish people, what's the word bechukotai? Again, chukotai could mean either the chukim, the mitzvahs, like Rashi says that it says es mitzvahs tishmaru means amalim b'Torah, to learn in Torah. But the Alter Rebbe is going to explain us what's the significance of the actual wording bechukotai, which means like a chukah. Asher Pirush Chazal, a pasuk, our teachers have taught us in the Gemara Kedushin. Chukotai tishmaru, hey Howard. Chukos shechakakti lahem. The chukos means the mitzvahs that I cut out for them, I carved out for them. The Gam Lashon, so we have to understand, what does this mean, the idea of carving out the chukim. And also one has to understand the idea of teilechu, that we should go, is as opposed to performing. It should have said the chukim that you perform. What does it mean, teilechu, you should walk in, so to say. So he says like this. Alter Rebbe says like this. There's two types of writings in the Torah. With regard to the tablets themselves, it's brought down in the Torah. The writing of the luchos is michtav alikim. It was a writing of God, meaning choros ala luchos. It was carved into the actual tablets themselves. I mean, the 10 Commandments were carved into the tablets. Shahaksav humi atzma shal luchos. The writing was part of the stone itself. That was carved in them and from them, meaning to say it was mamish, the letters were part of the luchos themselves. We're on page 3 on the right-hand column in the second or third or fourth paragraph. Understanding the ideas of chukim, what does it mean? Chukotai means to carve out, and how does that apply to teilechu, that we should go? So he says the luchos were letters that were carved into the letters of the 10 Commandments were carved into the actual tablets, meaning the stone. And the stones were made out of a precious stone, meaning like a diamond. Al shar Torah, but that's only the luchos, the tablets. But the rest of the written Torah is diyai ksuv al klaf. It's ink on parchment, like the Sefer Torah that we have. Asher oisi is hemahus b'fnei, that the letters are their own entity. And they're not part of the parchment itself. There's a parchment, and on the parchment you write the letters of the Torah, and therefore it's called Torah B'chsav, the written Torah. Because the Torah comes into the writing. It's simple to understand the difference between the luchos that are carved into the stone and the Torah in general that is written ink on parchment. So he says like this. The Alter Rebbe says like this. There's 3 things that are tied together. I mean, there's 3 concepts that are tied together. What are these 3 things? Kuchabrich, God, Iraisa, the Torah, and Yisrael. They're all tied together. Yisrael is kasher, and the Torah is tied together and around. Torah is connected to the Jewish people, and and Jewish people are connected to Torah, and Torah is connected to Hashem. It's all tied together. Okay. So therefore, what's the point of saying that everything's connected? That if we find something in Torah, so we have to find something similar in the Jewish people and in Hashem himself. Means if there's an idea of carved in letters and written letters of ink on parchment, so we have to find that idea of carved out letters in the Jewish people, in the Neshamas Yisrael, in the souls of the Jewish people, and so too the idea of the carved out letters within HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. So therefore he says, okay, because we're all tied together and we find this thing by Torah, means b'chol nitzis v'nefesh alikis Yisrael, every godly soul, both also have these 2 ideas. The letters that are carved into our soul, and the and the letters that are ink on top of a parchment that are as connected as they are, but they're separate. There's ink and there's parchment. The Nechsiv, it says like this. about the souls of the Jewish people, Zechariah says, I'm placing you, meaning the souls of the Jewish people. You're the person of movement amongst those who stand. What are those? What does it mean, those who stand? Those who stand, it's brought down, these are the malachim, those are the angels. And mahalchim, who are the people that are the entity of movement? Neshamas Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, the souls of the Jewish people. Means the Jewish people are referred to as mahalchim, people that can move, or things that can move, something like a creation that can move. Whereas the angels are considered a creation that stands still. So we have to understand that, because we find many places where, with regard to the angels, there's movement. To understand this, why does Zechariah refer to the angels as creations that stand still? In Yechsiv, it says like this: Bidvar Hashem is the utterance of God, Uberuch Piv Kol and with the breath of God, all the regiments, all the creation comes into being. Like it says, we say every day, Baruch Shamar, God said, V'haya Olam, the world came into being. Meaning to say, the Hainu Shamalachim, which are included, the angels that are included in part of God's creation, Makam Makor Choitzavon Uvriyasan, where are they carved and created out of? They come from the utterance of God. When God uttered their existence, they came into existence. Kivyachol. Even though clearly God doesn't have a body, and there's no such thing as real speech the way we understand it. There's no way to even understand God's holiness. And nevertheless, like it's brought down many times in Chassidus, in order for us to understand something about godliness, we have to have a reference, and therefore we get the Lashon B'nei Adam, we get something that we can understand. So just like we understand the difference between speech and thought, so too we can understand there's difference between connection, the way something comes into existence that we refer to as speech, just like speech is more distant from the person, as something that comes into existence from the thought. And therefore, the Torah talks in a language that we could kind of understand, we should try to understand. The Hikaris, therefore the Torah tells us and calls, when God reveals himself in such a way, to the creation in the way of speech. So when it says speech, it's kind of giving us an example that we should understand, just like the distance between speech of the person who's speaking to the person who's being spoken to, that the speech is not the essence of the person, it's just an expression of what the person's choosing to communicate. So too, there's a limited level of what's revealed when things come into existence in what we call speech of God. Meaning to say that what the Alter Rebbe is building at, if the angels come from speech, it's not coming from the essence, from the depth of God. It's coming from a more chitzonius, external level of revelation. V'hinei, and he's going to explain this, the difference between speech and thought. And from this we're going to understand the speech and thought have to have letters and words, and therefore we're going to understand the difference between oisis hachakika, carved letters, and written letters. When you speak, each word has its own existence once you've spoken it. Speech speech has within it ideas, but the words themselves stay the words themselves. It means you could understand from the words, and you, as a person who receives the words, could take ideas from it and apply different ideas and to expand ideas. But that's using the words and then bringing it back into your thought. But when the speech is uttered, there's no more speech that's going to come from the words that have been uttered once. And therefore, he says, because speech stays as it is, the angels that come from speech, even if they have an avodah that is full of love, like the camp of Michael, all the angels that are under his camp, or if their avodas Hashem, the service God is in fear and awe, like the camp of Gavriel, they stand within the greatness of the world. That's the way their whole existence is to love God. And loving, of course, is an emotion of a feeling, but they can't change from that. That's their whole thing, is to love God constantly. And what they've been given to from the first day of creation, that's how it is. Just like an utterance can't change. The Srafim, even though they're burning with passion, But that's their existence. It was already preset. There's no they don't grow in their avodah. What's up? A lot of people, a person on the other hand does grow, right? We start off small and we grow more and more. We get deeper and deeper. But the way they felt the same love, that passion, it's a crazy passion. It could be very much even in a way greater than our passion. But it's there and it's always been there. Avanishmas Yisrael, that's the angels. When it comes to the souls of the Jewish people, our existence didn't come from speech. Our existence came from thought. Like a person who has an idea, so the thought is deep in the person, and then you articulate it and it starts to build. It's more what you're building with the words is to set a setting for the thought. But the thought really matters to you, and that's where the Jewish people come from. They come from the thought of Hashem. Our existence, we're carved out from the world, from the words and letters of, so to say, God's thought. Which is called the upper thought of Hashem. Asher hem kamaina nevei tamid, like thought it constantly runs. A person's always thinking. Kamaim razal mevin davar mitech davar. Right? When a person's thinking, you're understanding. Initially, you understood one thing, but as you're processing the information more, you're understanding another thing. Davar mitech davar, one thing from the next. Yad neifel davar echad machshava kshura b'mikor haseichel azayis hach. And as soon as you have a thought, you start broadening it. The thought doesn't stay. It's alive. The thought is in your mind. It's alive because it never came out into existence of an utterance. And that's the concept of movement. Like a person, like a thought, so too the neshamas of a person has the ability to grow, and that's what Yisachar is being told. The prophecy is that a neshama has the ability to be a mahalach, a person that moves, whereas an angel, as great as their passion is, it's preset. Asher Azar Nemar, like about the thought of a person, or so to say, the thought of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with regard to the Jewish people. It says, "Vanor yoitzim Eden." The river went from Eden, the Hashkis Sagan to irrigate the field, the garden. So the Eden is Chachma. That's the source of everything. The Nahar is Bina. And that gives and what does it go? It waters the garden. And what happens when you water the garden? It grows, and there's things that grow. So just like it starts off with small trees and small flowers and small things in the garden, but as you water it more and more, it grows more and more. So too, the Jewish people come from Bina. From Anar Yoitzim Eden, therefore things grow, their passion grows, our Abbas Hashem grow, our years Hashem grow. So it's the river is constantly flowing from Eden. Eden is the source of the wisdom. And it keeps on growing and expanding until it comes to your great the 53 parshas of the Torah, which are called Torah Shebechsav. Therefore, Yeshua says that where did your forefathers come from? They come from the other side of the river. You're connected to the essence of the thought before there was an expansion. Even higher than the river. And now he says this in the thought itself. So a person in general is a mahalach. But just like we said that in the writing of Hashem, there's the carved out letters and there's the written letters, there's the ink on parchment. So too in the Jewish people, there's the carved out letters of the thought that's connected to Hashem. So to say it's chakuk, it's carved into God's brain. The existence of the Jewish people, that's how connected it is, like letters are connected to the stone. So like it says, there's different types of thoughts. My thoughts, plural, are not like your thoughts. Meaning, God, there's deeper thought and there's less deep thought. In the deeper thought, where the Jewish people, there's the level of the Jewish people connected to the, so to say, as if they're carved into God's idea, or they're ink on top of a parchment. So he explains like this: there's for instance, when a person has a thought, there's a lower thought. What's a lower thought? That's the thought when a person's already trying to formulate ideas to communicate, right? You don't always, there's a process, right? You have an idea, you want to say something. Let's say you figure something out, you want to talk to someone, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to communicate. At one point, it started off in your head, in your thinking process, but you didn't right away start thinking what I'm going to tell the person. First, you thought about something, and then that's one stage, and then you're thinking, how could I say what I want to say to that person? You have to choose your words. So that's called machshava tata. Choosing your words is called machshava tata. Means you're thinking in your mind what words you could use to communicate this idea. is ki machshava tatohu machayis adibur. That's the life of speech. He built machshava. Obviously, without thinking, you shouldn't speak first. Hashemay, like it says, Hashmal aznecha masha atem maitzim picha. I listened in your ears what you're saying. On the lower level of machshava, where's the thought in order to communicate, it says, with the 10 utterances, the world came into existence. The world, the Mishnah says, we said in this week's Pirkei Avos, the world could have been created in one utterance. What's the one utterance? It's the thought before you said those 10 utterances. You have it more in thought, it's much more small, and it's in one quick idea, but then you have to break it down to 10 communications. It's the life of the speech. That the whole creation, that God knows everything, He sees everything, and it's all seen in one scan. That one scan is like the machshava, the one thought that gives life to existence, that gives life to the utterances of creation. But that's a thought that's connected to utterance. It means you have a lot of times a person who's not, you think a thought has nothing to do with, you're not thinking about communicating it. It's not because you want to say something to someone, or you want to give over an idea that you're thinking it. It's private thought. That's called machshavila. A deeper level of thought. Is the higher level of thinking. It's connected to the concept, to the wisdom, to the seichel, to the subject at hand. Those are letters that are carved in. They're not it's because they're not, they have nothing to do about communication. It's all about just the idea itself. And the letters have no essence of their own. When you're thinking of it, you're not thinking words. You don't know that you're subconsciously you're thinking words because we don't process any information without words and letters. But it's not, you're not looking to try to think what kind of words you can tell yourself about a subject at hand. You're just thinking of an idea, and it happens to be that the idea is running in words and letters. Therefore, because we come from that point and we're connected to the oisis hachakika, to the carved out letters of God, so therefore we call it things of movement, like the thought is constantly running. Because the idea is that when you're thinking to communicate already, you stop your words stop running. Why? Because you're already limiting them by definition, so you could communicate them. You start taking away ideas. You start saying this word is not good. So you're limiting your words of communication. So it's not running freely. But when you're thinking an idea for yourself, not about communicating it, so your mind is running in all different. You can say maybe this is not the way. This is not a good idea. This is not accurate. But it's all constantly flowing. There's no concentration on words. So therefore, we're called mahalchim. Because a neshama can grow in their love and fear more and more. Until they could go back to their source, to the initial thought, which is called Eber Hanar, on the other side of the river, the place of Chachma before the river starts flowing. Even there's no peace. It's constantly, the light is on a moving. Therefore, the soul can move in its love and fear of Hashem. Like it says in the Har Yotze, the river is going out from the source of going out, which is Chachma. Now, he says, so now we know a person moves. So when's the time when a person should move in their life? Tefillah is when you daven. Before you're davening, to get ready for davening. Psukkah de Zimra, when you say the parts of the tefillah that are before the Yishtabach, the Psukkah de Zimra, or brachas, and the brachas of Shema, that the members of the Great Assembly instituted that we say every day in the davening. And this was all put together by the forefathers. Like it says, Tfilas Avos Tiknum, the prayer itself was instituted by the fathers of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. V'hei Midas, and the difference of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, seemingly, even though the Shemona Esrei of Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv are the same, we're saying the same words, is because each one represents. One is Gedula, which is Abba. One is Gevura, which is Yitzchak, which is Yikra. And one is Rachman, compassion, that's Yaakov. Kasher Kolul and Chazal, as our rabbis have put together, Psukim Hamivarim Gedula Sabayis Yisbarach V'Glosein Cheker. We talk about things about the great Gedula, the greatness of Shem that gives us Avos Hashem. That God has no beginning and no end. When a person realizes the infinite of God is Yagdal Avasil Hashem Yisbarach, your love grows. And there's also verses that explain the ideas, the passion, the greatness of God in a way that we bring we arouse fear and awe of God, which is the midah of Yitzchak. We have many verses that talk about Rachmanis, the compassion God should have for us. Asher he nikras nachas Yaakov, that's Yaakov who has compassion. Nachal mitzarim, he has no limit. B'li gvul, because compassion is there's no creation that from the source that you don't have Rachmanis. Even the highest level of revelation is not the essence, distance from God, and therefore anything that's distance to Rachmanis is not just on something that we understand. That if a person needs something or is lacking something, that's a Rachmanis. But if I have everything I need, then there's no compassion. There's compassion on everything. Why? Because you may think you have everything you need, but you're distant from God. How many times have you not thought about God? How many times have you not connected to God? And for that, there's a Rachmanis. And therefore, Yaakov's Mavriach min hakatza lakatza, from the highest to the lowest level, it's equally that there has to be Rachmanis in any part of creation. Adrei Maus is the highest level. Because nothing is the essence of God. It's only just from a ray. Like it says, that his ray is on heaven and earth. Eretz is the memali kolamim, the way God encloses the world. V'shamayim, and heaven is the way God is encompassing the world. But these are all ha'ar, there's only a ray. So our whole connection to godliness is only in a manifestation. And therefore it's a Rachmanis. It's Rachmanis because we can't connect to the essence of God. Or it's not revealed to us, our essential connection. And that's called like a name. Like it says, and a name is not the essence. A name is a title. Even if you have a Shema Etzem, a name that's an essential name, but it's still not the essence of the person. Therefore, we have compassion on all creations. Of the distance we are from the essence of God in a revealed way. When a person realizes and contemplates the Rachmanis, the compassion that there needs to be on themselves, what does that do to the person when you realize how far you are? Is Yagdal Midais of Hashem, so you want your emotions want to grow towards God, because the Rachmanis says, I don't want to stay like this. I want to get closer. You want to take all the things that you can, anything that I have available to me, all the tools that are available to me, and to bring them to God. Like it says, Elecha Hashem nafshi esa, I go towards you, I lift everything up towards God. Because the fathers, by davening and bringing out the Ava, Yira, and Rachmanis, they are the Roim, they are the shepherds. Shiva Roim, from the 7 shepherds, and that they sustain and give life, and vitality, to the holy sheep, which are the Jewish people. That we should grow. And that's the Mahalchim. And then that's what he says, when's the time of Bechukotai Teilechu? Is during Tefillah. Vayikra tsar gidul banim hayil Yaakov, and who had the most difficult time raising one's children. It's interesting. They say who had the most difficult time was Yaakov. Although Yaakov, his difficulty translated in that his children were complete. Yitzchak and Yaakov and Yitzchak and Avram, the outcome was worse, right? They had a Yishmael and they had an Esav, but you didn't feel that they didn't have the Tsar Gidul Banim. I mean, Yaakov had dealt with Esav, and he dealt with Yilev and Shimon, and he dealt with Dinah, and he dealt with a lot of situations, and it brought him down. By Yaakov and by Avram and Yitzchak, they had Esav and Avram, whatever it was, what it was. Yitzchak said, Esav's Esav, Yishmael's Yishmael. He sent him away. But Yaakov didn't do that. He didn't give up on his kids, but therefore he had difficulties with his kids because he wasn't giving up on them. But nevertheless, they at the end they ended up okay, good. Therefore, like he says, Yaakov midas rachmanis umagadas midas Hashem Yisbarach, and that's because he's growing. He's giving the midas to Hashem. Okay, Nemar. Therefore, it says Kiroi Edra Yira Vizroyi Kavetz Sloim Mecheka Yisei. It talks about the idea Yeshaya. It talks about the idea of being a shepherd, that you bring them up, you hold them, you bring them up to your chest, and you lead them. He brings them up to God, like it says, Therefore Chazal teach us, God's pleading with us. Pirish, halavai, I hope, I wish for you, that a person's path in life and a person's journey in life, movement in life, should be in things of tefillah and davening. That's already been preset by the members of the Great Assembly. I hope that when you have to grow in life, it's an amazing idea, the Alter Rebbe says, that when you have to grow in life, grow with the things that's been pre-established for you. A person shouldn't think, I want to grow. There must be things that that haven't been tried yet, or I can't take the regular path in growth. I have to take something different. So the Torah says, we have already set ways for you to grow in life. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov set the way in tefillah. And you shouldn't have to look for other ways of movement. Because davening is the best way to move. That should be enough. I wish that should be enough that you should find growth in that. That you should go into the Bechukotai, get connected to your inner core, to the letters that are carved out, that are beyond the river. The letters that are carved, you should come one. Those letters are one with the essence, and recognize that and realize that. In the place that they're carved out. And that's why you could come to movement. Connect to those letters, and those are the letters of davening and learning. And those are the letters that have been carved out by Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who they themselves on the other side of the river. That's the place of movement. But that's not enough. Why? Because that enough would just inspire a person, but it's not sustainable. Davening alone is not sustainable, because you leave the intensity and the concentration of davening, and you go out to the world. It kind of doesn't remain. Even though we talk many times, there's a rishima, there's leftover, there's a sign that you davened, but it's not the same thing. Because the fact is that we have our own material, physical needs. Our body, says, fine, you finish davening, it's time to move on. It's not going to stay, this engraved connection and this movement, unless you have to put it into a vessel. The vessel will hold it. That's why it says, keep my mitzvahs. Through the mitzvahs, your shamor, you watch this experience that you've had in davening. In the mitzvahs, what are the mitzvahs? The Ramach mitzvahs say that the 248 positive and 365 negative. And the things that we shouldn't do is to stay away from the bad that would impact the experiences and accomplishments we had in our movement in davening. But the 248 positive, they're called Evarim de Malka. They're the limbs of the king that were bringing down godliness. Like any limb of a body is a kli, is a vessel to a certain experience and expression of the soul. That just like when you use a limb, you use your eyes to see, you're bringing down the potential of seeing that's at its source in the soul. So too, when you do a mitzvah, you're bringing down, and that keeps a shmira, that your experience and your connection to Hashem should stay. And he continues, because the mitzvah is the vessel itself. That is to be able to bring down the hidden of all hiddenness, down to this world, to the person in this world. And by doing the mitzvah, that changes, and it keeps the person alive in their experience of godliness. And the light of Hashem that's enclosed in the mitzvah is called Yayin Malchus Rav Ki Adam Melech. It's like wine that you put into a cup. There's plenty of wine, like a king's feast. There's no limit to how much light. All you have to do is create the vessel for it. And what's the limitless part of the mitzvah? Mitzvah does have limits, seemingly, right? You put on film, you light candles, a certain thing, whatever, it's done. You did the mitzvah. But the kavanah, the intentions, the connection you have emotionally and spiritually to the mitzvah, that's no limit to how much you could do. To bring down the light through the kavanah mitzvah. When a person makes the kelim, the vessels for the Torah and the mitzvahs, mitzvah means a person connects themselves to Hashem. But there's many details, right? There's many different mitzvahs. When a person learns a pasuk, it's different when you learn a mishnah, or if you learn the Talmud, if you learn a halacha, a law, or if you learn a Agada, the part of that Agada of Torah. Mitzvahs, there's different kind of mitzvahs. That's where it says, there's many different types of vessels that bring down, but all these vessels, all these are ways of connecting to Hashem and a shmira to keep the halicha, the movement, the connection you have to the Oisis HaChakika. So he says, but the bottom line is, what's the common connection of all these different things that we're doing is that it's Oyer Yisbarach, it's the light of God, which is called Yayin. When you put the wine in, out comes the secret, comes out the essence of the person. By Yayin who is Slavis, and just like wine brings an excitement, it creates a passion. In Oyer Yisbarach, Hanishbar Beliboy, that the passion of Hashem should remain within the person. When a person learns Torah and does mitzvahs, then the hidden love and passion that you have for Hashem comes out. Who's the hidden love that should be revealed. That the person should continue the movement. Meaning to say that the initiation is in tefillah. But because that's only as long as you're davening, therefore to continue to bring out the essence of your soul, the essence of this connection, the mahalach, is the constant performance of the Torah mitzvahs throughout the day. And therefore, is to bring a person back to one's roots. Is even greater than the way God is in the world, which is creation, the way he fills and encompasses the world. But because we said Neshamas Yisrael, the souls of the Jewish people come from Machshav, the inner thought, which is greater than the creation, even greater than the level of God, the way he is in the world in an encompassing matter, in an encompassing way, like the levels of miracles, etc. The soul of a person on a daily basis reaches higher than that. So a person may think that where do you see godliness is in a miracle? That's why it says about the Alter Rebbe, he said that by his teacher, the Maggid, the Mizrich, he says there was miracles all the time. No one had time to pick up the miracles. Why? Because miracles is all within the world. That's Soviv, that's creation. But I'm connecting to my machshav ilah. I'm connecting to my oisis of chakika. Why am I paying attention to miracles that are about the world, that are about chitzonis, that are about external? When I'm focusing on trying to find the life within me, this to reveal my soul, my essence, the oisis of chakika, the carved out words of the person. Therefore, they said if there's miracles all the time, who paid attention to the miracles? What we were doing was much greater than the miracles. A miracle. A lot of times we need a miracle to feel connected. A miracle is a downgrade. When a person connects to their essence of the soul, that's really alive. So he said it's even higher than Saiviv Imamalik. And what's the idea of bringing the light down? The idea is to ignite the soul, that the person starts in the process of Ratziv V'Shoiv. Ratziv V'Shoiv is the yearning towards God, and the Shoiv is the completion of that, is to bring that energy back into the world. So that's why the pasuk says, "I'm going to walk." V'salachti is plural amongst you. You want a miracle is a benefit. What's a miracle? A miracle means you go to God. I need something. God creates a miracle. It doesn't. That's not necessarily a sign that v'salachti, God's walking with you. When you reveal your soid, your essence, when you reveal the oisis hachakika, God says v'salachti, I'm with you. It's me and you together. Me, myself, not the miracle, not the manifestation. I'm going to be amongst you. On your journey towards your yearning and towards going backwards. And that's what it means to be your God. Not a miracle makes me your God. Me being with you is me living with you, being alive with you. That's what it means to be a God. This is what it means. Through the mitzvahs, you keep the special wine, that passion, that love, that connection we have. That comes down to the heart of man. To bring that out, that the secret, the hidden love, to continue to move day by day higher and higher. And if you don't do this, you don't experience this in your life, then you're a person who stands still. You may feel good in your life, right? You think everything's good. And because that, you'll never cry, he says. Only when you move, you cry. Crying is an expression of deep connection. If you're not crying, you're not deeply connected. And if you're moving, then you're deeply connected, then you're crying. Because when a person moves, that awakens the great compassion of your distance, lifkos. You realize when you're not happy, you're not content with where you are, and therefore you want to move. The rachim, you're feeling compassion for yourself. I'm not enough connected. To cry in the depths of your heart. In the distance you are from God. And the crying brings out The bechinas va'yave berina, that you come with joy, like it says, it's not just crying and you stay crying. The crying triggers the joy that you have in the ability to continue performing the mitzvahs. You lift up into your chest. To beyond the river. The initial, like we said. You connect with what's called holiness, the separation of godliness. So too you should know your soul's going to go back to your core. Like it says, to you, be holy, be separate. That God's not just saying it as a commandment or a quest. He's saying, it's going to happen. If you try, you will become holy. Don't make light, the Alter Rebbe says. Am I 100% pure? Is everything I'm doing right? Don't be satisfied with just standing. God forbid, to just stand still in your life and say, okay, let me see where I'm holding. Better even to be not 100%, but be moving than a person who finds them satisfied with where they are. The Alter Rebbe says doesn't exist. Because really, because you're a person of movement, therefore, if you're not going to move up, you're going to move down. You be holy because I'm holy, be separate because I'm separate, because that's where you come from. It has to happen. You can't stand still in life. The person has to reveal the movement and the light that is limitless. And how does one do it? Is starting off with the davening and then bringing it down to the mitzvahs, because otherwise you don't have the vessels to contain it. That contains and watches the essence of your soul, which is the yayin toiv, the hidden love, to bring out the essence of who you are. And if you do that, you person of movement growing, then you make the world, you make things happen. And the world doesn't give out it's going to give out the fruit from below above and from above below. And therefore, like it says, God says, I'm going to command the blessing. I'm going to give the blessing. You do your avoid in the 6 years of work. And the 7th year, the sabbatical, you can have so much blessing. In the 6th year, you can have enough food to go until the 8th year. And a kavanas kol bracha Hashem, and that's the bracha that God's going to put in, is going to connect your kavanah with the ma'aseh mitzvahs. Right? Everyone that ever goes into a long beer to explain this, but this is the essential mimer of Parshas Bechukotai. I want to wish everyone a good week and a chodesh tov and Shavua tov. B'ezras Hashem, see you next week. Take care.